الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين وباعث الأنبياء والمرسلين الذي بعد فلا ترى وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على خاتم النبيين وسيد المرسلين والشفيع المذنبين الرسول المؤيد والنبي الممجد المصطفى الأمجد أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما على الإمام المنتظر وحجة الله الثاني عشر ابن العسكري المنتظر ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Continuing from last night, in our quest to understand and analyze the concept of Shafa'at, and because many times there comes a request which becomes difficult for us to fulfill, specifically when it is related to the language. That when you recite things in English, those more familiar with Urdu tend to feel left out. And then when you recite in Urdu, those in English tend to feel left out. So it's a fine balancing act that we need to do, which at times, rather most of the times, we tend to fail. But because, if you realize, last night, just before the Masa'ib, I had indicated a certain point which I had converted it into Urdu so as to provide a link for the Masa'ib. And realizing that it could have a problem with a lot of our young brothers and sisters, I would just want to give a small, brief recap, and then we take off today. With a little request that today the discussion would be a little profound, a little academic in nature, because we want to demystify the concept of Shafa'at and what it exactly means. What exactly happens when we say, Ya wajhan 'inda Allah, ishfa' lana, ya ishfa'i lana 'inda Allah. We need to know exactly what happens to realize how Shafa'at works. And once we understand that, we will realize why Shafa'at at times doesn't work and when it does not work. And it is so easy for us to just take a superficial meaning of Shafa'at and say that they're going to be our Shafi' and Shafi'in on the Day of Judgment. How does it actually work? How will it? Because there are certain statements from the Imams and the Masumeen that unless and until this concept of Shafa'at is not understood, those sentences will make no meaning. But once the concept of Shafa'at works, then you find how those sentences make a meaning. Sentence is very controversial and you feel sometimes, how does the Imam say this? So for example, it is said that on the Day of Judgment, can Yazid ever be forgiven? And the Imam says, yes, he can be forgiven. So then you get into a wonder as to how a person like Yazid can ever get forgiven on the Day of Judgment. But those are concepts which are a consequence, those are a result as a consequence of understanding the ideology and the basis of Shafa'at. And so we start moving on for tonight to understand what exactly happens in Shafa'at when we say that on the Day of Judgment the people will be collected and divided into 1,000 rows or 1,000 columns. When the Hisab and Kitab, again this is metaphorically stated. You can't say there will only be 1,000, not 1,001. But Riwayat says the people will be gathered together on the accounting, when the accounting is to be done. And today we will discuss quite a lot about the Day of Judgment. So bear with me, we will go quickly, I will need your attention. We might exceed by a few minutes. But inshallah, in view of the fact that these are the Ayyam of the sun of the solar system, I think a few minutes more would not make much of a difference to us. What is important is when we hear these things that they would be on the Day of Judgment, when the accounting, when the Hisab, which is a very convoluted, very intriguing, very intricate concept when we go into discussion of how the accounting takes place on the Day of Judgment. In the light of the Riwayat and the Ayat of the Quran, we find metaphorically stating Quran, the Riwayat says that on the Day of Judgment there will be 1,000 rows of people, and out of those people, all the people collected in 1,000 rows, 1,000 columns, whatever you might want to call, 999 of these will be done Shafa'at by Hussani ibn Ali. Now again, you do realize that 999 is a metaphorical statement. That means the vast majority of the people who will get the Shafa'at will be done through Hussani ibn Ali. So what does Hussani ibn Ali do at that time? Does he bifurcate? Does he break all the laws that Allah has set? Whereas Quran itself says, وَلَن تَجِدَ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَبْدِيلًا. The sunnah of Allah, the laws of Allah, the formula of Allah sees no change. So if he's decreed that كُلُّ نَفْسٍ ذَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ, then whether it is the Holy Prophet or Hussein, they have to die. لَن تَجِدَ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَبْدِيلًا. The sunnah of Allah will never see a change. So whether it is Shaitan, he has to die. If the Holy Prophet, he has to die. So then what does Hussein do so as to ensure that those who have sinned, and when the Quran says, وَمَن يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى, if you do atoms of good, you will see. وَمَن يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ الشَّرِّ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَى. You do atoms of evil, you will see. So how does Hussein come and solve this issue out, that out of 1,000 lines, 999 who have been ordained to go into hell are now then moved into heaven? Because you do realize, do not forget this aspect, that Shafa'at is not in Barzakh, Shafa'at is not in this world, Shafa'at is only on the Day of Judgment. And hence the tradition of Imam Ali alayhi salam. We fear for you, not on the Day of Judgment, we fear for you in Barzakh. Because on the Day of Judgment, we are there due to your Shafa'at. But how does it work? In order to understand a little recap of last night, we said, and because this entire scenario of Shafa'at will unfold on the Day of Judgment, a Day of Judgment, not an ordinary day. A Day of Judgment, في يوم كان مقداره 50,000 سنة. That the day on which will be an extension, a protraction, an elongation of 50,000 years. 50,000 years of one day. So it's a very long period for events to unfold. It's an entirely different reality. It's an entirely different realm. It's an entirely different setup, not something that you and me experience in this, that in 24 hours you have a day and you have a night. That 50,000 years, it's all ease and comfort. In the sense, there's no hurry for night to come, because there is no night. Because it's all, the entire program changes. But that's sometime when we discuss about Qiyamah. Right now, the incident, the scenario that will develop in Qiyamah with regards to Shafa'at. We said yesterday we mentioned, very briefly, that one of the names of the day of Qiyamah is Yawmul Haqq. The day of Haqq. And Yawmul Haqq has been manifested, explained further in the Quran, that it is a day Yawma Tubla Fiha Sarair. This is a recap of last night. Yawma Tubla Fiha Sarair. All the secrets on this day will be manifested, will be exposed, will be open. And this is what it is called, Yawmul Haqq, the day of truth. Nothing will be hidden. When truth is hidden, then falsehood comes. When truth is manifested, there is no falsehood, there is all haqq. Right now, because the bilad of Ali has been suppressed, you have falsehood. People 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 coming, 32. We will talk in Friday khutbah when we are talking about the various sects as to how those fabricated hadith to get that number of 32 to fit with certain groups and certain dynasties have come. So when the truth is suppressed, falsehood comes. Once truth comes, there is no falsehood. When light is suppressed, there is darkness. When you bring out light, there is no darkness. And this is what happens. That on the Day of Judgment, when all things become haqq, when all secrets are manifested, there is only haqq. At that point of time, in order for, and now we're moving forward, this was just a recap. The day of Haqq, all mysteries, all secrets become manifest. So pay attention very carefully and understand these concepts. Haqq can only be manifested under one circumstance. If that circumstance is not there, Haqq will never be manifested. Secrets will not come out. And that will be Haqq. Truth can only be manifested when there is adalat. It's only in the case of adalat and justice that truth will be manifested. If there is no adalat and no justice, truth will always be suppressed. Because truth needs to be suppressed for falsehood to come. And for falsehood to come, it needs to suppress. It cannot have adalat moving around it. Because adalat means justice. Justice means what is right, what is wrong. You cannot say justice exists when wrong is given the preference over what is right. So for Haqq to manifest, and understand this, for Haqq to manifest, for falsehood to be removed, for truth to reveal, Haqq needs to be there. And Haqq will only come when adalat will come. And this is what Quran says, وَبِالْعَدْلِ قَامَتِ السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضِ. The fundamental principle in establishing the universe is adalat of God. And it is this concept of the adalat of God that will manifest itself by default on the Day of Judgment. It's all linked very intricately. That means now the mysteries need to be opened. Haqq needs to come. Haqq can never come unless there is adalat and equity and justice. And for the Day of Judgment, to be the Yawmul Haqq, God will manifest Himself by default as the Adl. You see, Allah has 999 names. Yes, if you look at specific single names, you will say 999 names. But as I previously mentioned, in Dua Joshne Kabir, you will find 999 names, because those are linked to each other. Dhul Jalali wal Ikram. Now these are attributes that are not specific, like Khaliq, like Razzaq, like Muhyi, like Mumeet, like Muhaymin, like Mu'min. These are specific names. But then when you talk about certain linked related attributes, then you get 999. Whether it is 99 names, whether it is 999 names, the one name by default which Allah will manifest Himself will be Al-Adl. That is one of His names. You see, God manifests Himself. He's Adil, He's Khaliq, He's Razzaq, He's Muhyi, He's Mumeet. Means He's Khaliq means He gives Khalq. He's Razzaq means He gives rizq. He's Muhyi means He gives life. He's Mumeet means He gives death. He's Fayyad means He gives fayad. But whenever He exposes Himself and manifests Himself in one of this characteristic, a particular characteristic comes out more. So when He's giving birth to a child, then He's referred to as the Khaliq. When somebody falls sick and he wants to be cured, we say, Ya Shafi. Now manifest yourself as Shafi. We don't want you to manifest yourself as Mumeet, because if you manifest yourself as Mumeet, this person will die. You have to manifest yourself as Shafi, the one who cures. If you need his help, you tell him, Ya Kafi, be sufficient for me. You're the only one that need help. So depending upon the situation, he manifests himself in that attribute. On the Day of Judgment, it has to be the Adl. Now before going further, I want to narrate a scenario that the riwayat of the 6th Imam Sadiq Ali Muhammad Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam talks about what will happen on the Day of Judgment. Now understand, this concept of Shafa'at is so important, and you need to understand this hadith as to what happens, because it delineates and it outlines a scenario that will take place. But before I come to this, we need to realize, do not take this issue of Shafa'at lightly, because there are certain traditions that go with it that indicate that this is such an integral part of the Shiite faith. No other individual, no other sect believe it as we believe it, and with the concept and ideology as we believe it. To such an extent that the 6th Imam has gone on record to have stated, any individual, man ankara bi thalathatin, if a person rejects 3 things that we say, the Ahlulbayt, falaysa minna, he's not from us. We have various wordings. Laysa minna man ankara bi thalatha, not from us is those, although is he who rejects the 3 things. One of those 3 things is exactly the concept of Shafa'at. 2 other things we'll talk later. So Shafa'at is something that the 6th Imam, that the Ahlulbayt say, it is such an integral part of the belief of the Shiites. Because it exposes on the Day of Judgment, it will manifest on the Day of Judgment the azamat, the rank and the position of the Ahlulbayt. So if you reject Shafa'at, you're not from us. You can go to whoever you want, not a problem. You're not from us on the Day of Judgment. And this is why, if you remember, normally in the shahadat or the wiladat of the sixth imam, one tradition normally is recited, that when he's about to die, the sixth imam, he collects all the people in emphasizing the importance of salat. Right? So he calls everybody and he says, لا تنالوا شفاعتنا من استخف بالصلاة يا مستخف الصلاة, that whoever considers salat to be insignificant, he will not get our shafa'at. So we listen, we pass it out. Do you realize what it means? This man, this entity, this imam, this personality is going from the world. All his family members are listening. He knows that whatever I'm going to say is going to reverberate after I've gone. Because people usually ask, what did he say in the final moments of life? That's what happened when somebody dies. Sun kahi gaya? Aakhri jumla sun hata? So for example, we had this incident about Marhum Muzaffar Bhai. Right? And it was said that he recited Nadir and he passed away. So you ask, what was the final thing that he recited? What was the final thing? Imam knows whatever I'm going to say is going to reverberate in history as my final words to mankind. What does he say? He calls everybody and he says, you know what? He says, لا تنالوا شفاعتنا مستخف الصلاة. If you consider salat to be insignificant, and this hadith is also mentioned in emphasizing the importance of salat, I want to take it to the other way. See, he's passing by. He could have so easily said, those who consider salat to be insignificant, no paradise, no thawab, will not come to us, will not this, will not that. But he singles out, he doesn't talk about Jahannam, he doesn't talk about paradise. He says, remember, all of this, whether you go to Jannat, you go to Jahannam, it all boils down to whether we are there or not. If we are not with you, you will go to hell. If we are with you, you will go to heaven. And the only way we can be with you is by means of our shafa'at. And so he says, you will not get our shafa'at if you consider salat to be insignificant. If this is understood, then automatically you understand. If the shafa'at is not there, there is no Jannat. If the shafa'at is not there, there is always Jahannam. You understand how he talks? So he summarized everything into the concept of shafa'at. So important it is. But what happens on the Day of Judgment? I'm going to read out a hadith. And listen to this hadith as to how, what will happen on the Day of Judgment. The riwayat of the sixth imam, he's narrating a scenario that will take place on the Day of Judgment as to what happens. Amazing. But again, it's a huge event that takes place. Right from the time when the order comes that all the people are needs to get up from the grave. And what happens from them for every person in the grave, the riwayat mentions. This is one part of that entire scenario. It says, وَيَأْمُرَ مَلَكًا مِنَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ فَيُنَادِي فِيهِمْ. An order will be passed. I'm reading the Arabic text and I will translate to you so that you know how things unfurl. It says, an angel, the riwayat says, sixth imam says, an angel is ordered, مِنَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ, an angel from the angels, فَيُنَادِي فِيهِمْ. He's ordered to issue an instructions. What are the instructions? What does he tell the people? Say, يَا مَعْشَرَ الْخَلَائِقِ, oh you people. Now you understand, this is the Day of Judgment. Every person from Adam to that last person who was born before the trumpet was blown. Everybody over here. Right now, 5.6, 6.1, 6.2, 6.4 billion, whatever. Right now, 2015. We're talking from the time Adam came till the time of the Day of Judgment. All of them on the plains of Qiyamah. All of them standing. And you know the discussion that we've had. What day this will be. How it will be. The attributes. Again, I refer to very briefly the first few verses of Surah Al-Hajj. You will see them intoxicated. You will see them senseless. You will see them acting insanely. You will see them running helter and skelter. You will think they're intoxicated. They're not intoxicated. The punishment of God is shadid. They lose all sense of place, time and position. And I keep repeating this and I will keep repeating this. Because it is there in the Quran up to the Day of Judgment. Now this is the scenario. At that time, there is all noise all around. People are running, people don't know what they're doing. Suddenly this angel comes and says, Ya ma'ashar al-khalaiq. Oh people, listen to what I'm saying. Ansatu wasma'ul munad al-jabbar. Keep quiet. And listen to what the announcer of Jabbar, the words that are used. He doesn't say the announcer of the Rahman. Jabbar is one of the names of God. He says, Ansatu, keep quiet. Shut up. Wasma'u, and listen to the announcer Munadil Jabbar. We take things so lightly. See how the words are used by the Imam. In the du'as he keeps repeating, Ya Arhamar Rahimin, Ya Ghafarul Dhunub, Ya Qabilut Tawbah. But here he's saying, listen to the Munadi of Jabbar, because that's a different scenario when God will manifest himself. As he says this, then he says, then Imam says, يَسْمَعُ آخِرُهُمْ كَمَا يَسْمَعُ أَوَّلُهُم. Every single individual that was born and on the plane of judgment will hear this, Ansitu, keep quiet, shut up, and listen to what the announcer is saying. فَتَنْكَسِرُ أَصْوَاتُهُمْ. As soon as this order comes, at that time you have no option. When it is said, Ansitu, keep quiet, you have to keep quiet. There will be another order that will pass, but that will come tomorrow night, Masab of Bibi. وَأَنْسَدُوا. He's saying, فَتَنْكَسِرُ أَصْوَاتُهُمْ عِنْدَ ذَلِكَ. Pin drop silence, shoo. Everybody keeps quiet. The situation is such, the adhab is such, the shiddat and the khawf is such. He said, أَنْسَدُوا. Imam says, فَتَنْكَسِرُ أَصْوَاتُهُمْ عِنْدَ ذَلِكَ. Pin drop silence. Then what he says, وَتَخْشَعُ قُلُوبُهُمْ. The hearts begin to beat hard, pitter and patter. What is going to happen? What is the announcement of Jabbar going to be? Where do we land up? The bodies begin to shake. Bodies are yours and mine as well, not somebody else's. We're talking about every single individual. The hearts begin to beat. The bodies begin to shake. At that point of time, وَيَرْفَعُونَ رُؤُوسَهُمْ إِلَى نَاحِيَةِ الصَّوْتِ. All of us will raise our heads towards the point where this voice is coming. What is going to happen? What is going to happen to me? Where am I going to go? At that time, مُهْتَعِينَ إِلَى الدَّاعِينِ قَالْ فَعِنْدَ ذَلِكَ يَقُولُ الْكَافِرُ هَذَا يَوْمُ عَصْرٍ. At that time, the kafir will say, I'm done, I'm finished. Then the riwayat says, the sixth Imam says, Ajrat now. فَيُشْرِفُ الْجَبَّارَ عَزَّ ذِكْرُهُ. At that time, the presence of God will be felt. يُشْرِفُ الْجَبَّارَ. Then he says, الْحَكَمُ الْعَدْلَ عَلَيْهِمْ. At that point of time, the voice of Allah will be heard. There's a pin drop silence, forced silence. Because there at that point of time, you can't say, I don't want to do it. Today you can say, I don't want to pray. Today you can say, I don't care about fast. Today you can say, music, people say, Islam says not to listen to music, I will listen to music. There you have no choice. It says, quiet means quiet. You don't have an option. At that time, Imam says, فَيُشْرِفُ الْجَبَّارُ عَزَّ ذِكْرُهُ الْحَكَمُ الْعَدْلُ. Allah's presence will come, and then He will come out and speak. Every single person there. Now listen to what he says. Ajab, this is Yawmul Haq. This is Yawmul Adl. The day of justice, the day of Haq. He says, Ana Allah la ilaha illa ana. He says, I am Allah, there is no Lord except me. He's claiming, La ilaha illa ana. Right now we say, La ilaha illallah. At that time he says, Ana Allah, I am Allah, La ilaha illa ana. There is no Lord except me. And then he says, Hu al-Hakam al-Adl. I am the adjudicator, but not just an adjudicator who's adil, who's just. Then he says, what will happen? If I'm just, what will I do? Then he says at this point of time, La yajuzul yawm ahk. Alladhi la yajur. I am adil, I am the adjudicator today. I am going to pass judgment. I am going to take the accounting, but La yajuru ahadan. There is nobody who's going to be oppressed. There is nobody who's going to be a madloom. It's right for right and wrong for wrong. You've done good, you will be rewarded. You've done evil, you will be punished. That's adalat of God. Default mode. This is what is saying. Then he says, Al-yawm ahkamu baynakum bi'adli wa qisti. See what he's saying? This riwayat of the sixth Imam, he's saying, I am Allah. There is no Lord other than me. Today I'm going to deal with adalat. And today he says, Al-yawm ahkamu baynakum bi'adli wa qisti. It is by means of my justice and my equity and my fairness that I'm going to deal with all of you. He's made his manifesto very clear. This is my default mode, with adalat and with justice. Listen how Shafa'at comes into play. It says, La yudlam al-yawm indi ahadun. Today nobody is going to become a madloom. Nobody is going to face dhulm. Al-yawm akhadu lil-dha'if min al-qawi bihaqqihi. If there is anybody who was a weak person in dunya, and there was a powerful person who's taken his haqq, I'm going to take that haqq from the powerful person and give it to the weak. Then he says, وَلِلشَّاحِ بِالْمَظْلَمَةِ بِالْمَظْلَمَةِ. Whoever has been facing oppression, I will be his avenger on the day of judgment. And then he says, whoever has done something wrong to somebody, I will make sure that I will return that wrong back to the person who's done. And then he says, وَلَا يَجُوزُ هَذِهِ الْعَقَبَةِ الْيَوْمَ عِنْدِي ظَالِمٍ. Today one sector group will never pass before me. One sector group, one category of people, I will not let them go. لا يجوز
لا يجوز هذه العقبة. This bottleneck that all of you are finding. You cannot move without my permission. You cannot go anywhere until I take a decision. I have the authority to pass a judgment. This position, one group will never go. Zalim. Whoever is an oppressor will never pass this. He has to be accountable. Having said this, there's a lot. The riwayat goes long. What happens? But we don't want to go. This segment, أحكموا بينكم. I'm going to rule. I'm going to pass the judgment. I'm going to adjudicate. I'm going to judge بعدلي وقسطي, with my fairness and my equality. The problem is this one. The problem is this one. Because if, and the riwayat says, if God were to deal with individuals on the basis of his adala. And what is adala? Adala means وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ شَرَّةٍ يَرَى. Whoever does one atom's weight of good, he will see it. Whoever does one atom of evil, he will see it. جَزَاءُ سَيِّئَةٍ سَيِّئَةٌ مِثْلُهَا. If you do evil, you will face evil. This is the adalat. You do good, you get good. You do evil, you get evil. This is the adalat of God. Riwayat says, if God deals with individuals on the basis of his adalat, all of us are going to go into hell. There is no escape. Who says? The riwayat. Even Quran says, وَلَوْ يُؤَاخِذُكُمُ اللَّهُ وَلَوْ يُؤَاخِذُ اللَّهُ النَّاسَ بِظُلْمِهِمْ مَا تَرَكَ عَلَيْهَا مِنْ دَابَّةٍ. If Allah were to take every people into account on the basis of their deeds, and if he were to respond to them on the basis of his adala, the punishment for everybody would be so much that not a single moving creature on earth would remain. The Bible says, don't ask God for adalat. If it is adalat, nobody will go to heaven. All of us are mahkum to enter into hell because of our sins. We cannot tell God, God, whatever I have sinned, punish me. Because I'm so confident that my amal is so great that they will take me to hell. They will take me to heaven. You know that incident about Ayyame Majlisiya? It's narrated in various forms. One of the forms I'm narrating. Ayyame Majlisi happens to see himself in his dreams, Day of Judgment. There are various versions. Somebody saw him, he sees himself. On the Day of Judgment, he's standing before God. Understand now? He's standing before God, ready for accounting. Hisabu kitab. God says, Majlisi, my creation, what have you done for me? 110 volumes of Bihar and all for you. Saying, in the trash. That you did to show your knowledge. In the trash, not for me. So Zadul Ma'ad, to guide people to the right path by means of du'as. That was not for me. That was because you wanted people to give you fame. I did this, not for me, that was for that purpose. I did this, no khulus in that, rejected. Every book, every act of Ayyame Majlisi, put into the trash. God says, I want what have you done for me. I want to know what you have done for me. Let me finish this riwayat so that you know how God works. This is what Allah is. This is what God is. Everything in the trash, not for me. In the trash, not for me. In the trash, not for me. Hello, tell me now. He said, I have nothing. He said, I'm ready to go to hell. What do I do? Everything that I've said, and it's right. You've shown me my thoughts. You made me hear what I was thinking. So that is, I cannot oppose it. When I did this thought crossed my mind. People will think big of me. People will say how pious he is. People will say how many books written. And all of this, you're right. They need to be pushed into the trash. Order comes, take him into Jannah. Oh, Jannah. But I thought I'm finished. He said, no, Majlisi. There is one thing that I picked up from you that you did only for me. Saying what? I don't remember. He's saying you don't remember, but I remember. So you remember on that day when you went out of your house, you had your food. Saying which day? Fulan day? Yes, I remember. Their minds become sharp. I will tell you on the Day of Judgment why the punishment appears to be so harsh. More than here. Why the punishment over there? Imam says, وَلَا تَخُبُ لَهَا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Your adab, your punishment, even the mountains will not be able to bear. I will tell you there's a reason for it. He remembers this, I remember. He's saying, what happened when you came out? He's saying, I remember I had got to do some work, I came out. So what did you have in your hand? Saying, I remember I had an apple in my hand. And then what happened? He's saying, I wanted to cross the road, so I came to the corner of the road. And then what happened? He's saying, I saw a caravan passing by, so I stood by it, waiting for it to pass so that I could go. Caravan of 5 camels. Saying, then what happened? He's saying, I remember a lady with a small little boy, 2-year-old, 3-year-old in her arms, walked by me. Saying, then what happened? Saying, as she walked by me, that boy looked at my apple, put his hand outside. Saying, what did you do? He's saying, I said, I have an apple, this boy wants, for the sake of the pleasure of Allah, let me give it to him. He's saying, Madhavi, 110 volumes in the trash, I'm picking up that apple for you. My God, this is... Saying, because of that one deed that you did for me, I'm going to put you into heaven. Don't do mufakhara. Don't pride yourself on that 110 volumes of Bihar al-Anwar. Those are trash before me. Do you get me what I'm saying? Now this is what happens. On the day of judgment, he's going to manifest himself as the adl, as the just. In that situation of just, if you've done good, you will see good. If you've done evil, you will get evil. Now park this aside. We need to move forward. Shafa'at we want to discuss. In namaz al-shab, see, Shafa'at comes from the word shafa. Shafa means two. It is the opposite of witr. Understand how Shafa'at works, huh? Shafa'at comes from the word shafa. Sheen, fe, ain. Shafa means in Arabic two. This is in opposition to the word witr. Witr means one. And that is why in Salatul Layl, Namaz al-Shab, the last one rakat is referred to as witr, means one. But the 2 rakat before that is referred to as shafa. So when you recite the Salatul Layl, you have 11 rakat. The first 8 rakat recited as 2 rakat. But the next 2 rakat is referred to as the Salatul Shafa. And the last 1 rakat is referred to as Salatul Witr. Witr means 1. Shafa means 2. Shafa'at comes from the word 2. Means what? Means this. That on the day of judgment, when God is trying to deal with his people and going to do the accounting, he's going to manifest himself as the adl. There is one attribute that he will manifest by default, the adalat attribute, the adl. At that point of time, if he deals with us with adalat, the Quran says, the riwayat says, none of us will escape his punishment. All of us will go into hell. At that point of time, the riwayat tell us, when you pray to God, don't tell God to deal with you with justice, but tell him, deal with me with fadl. And that is why we've got that recommendation of dua. Rabbana amilna bifadlik wa la tu'amilna bi'adlik. Oh Allah, deal with us with mercy and grace. Do not deal with us with adalat. You know the dua? Rabbana amilna bifadlik. Deal with us with your fadl wa la tu'amilna. Do not deal with us bi'adlik. This is exactly the reason. Now what happens is this, that on the day of judgment, certain individuals have been given a prerogative, they've been given a rank, they've been given an authority. They come to God and say, God, do not deal with these individuals as witr. Do not deal with these individuals with one attribute. Do not deal with these individuals with the attribute of adalat. We want you to become shafa. We want you to become true. True means what? They say, now with your adalat, join your mercy. Riwayat says, if rahmat joins with adalat, then we've got a chance of salvation. With only adalat, there is no chance for salvation. What the Shafi does is, he tells God, your default mode is adalat. It is witr. We want you to become a shafa. We want you to become true. Add a rahmat to your adalat and you will be successful. This is exactly what the Holy Prophet said in the final moments of his life. In one of his khutbah, he says there are only 2 characteristics that will give you salvation. One is amal, which is what is adalat. Second is the rahmat of God. If you think by taking out the rahmat of God and asking him to deal with you with witr, you will be successful, understand, you will be annihilated. The only salvation that you and me can get is to make God appear as a shafa. 2 attributes, the attribute of adalat together with the attribute of rahmat, that we will successful. That is why the Shafi is referred to as the Shafi, one who converts one attribute into 2. will Yazid ever be forgiven? And he says, yes, there is a caveat to it. The caveat is, if God manifests himself as Shafa, he will be saved. But for somebody to become Shafa, he needs a Shafi. There will be no Shafi for Yazid. So the condition remains, if there is a Shafi, Yazid will be saved. But there will be no Shafi. So God will manifest himself to Yazid as Witr. When it is Witr, there is no salvation for Yazid. There's a logic behind how things work. It is not so easy. How can Imam Sajjad say Yazid can be forgiven? People even go to the extent, he may forgive, but we Shiites will not forgive. Yani, he will forgive and I will not forgive. We've been crying. People have told me, oh, we've been crying for so many years over Hussain. Now Imam Sajjad says that Allah can forgive, but we will tell Allah, we are not forgiven. Yani, what are you talking? You will tell God, you forgive, I am not forgiving, as if he is going to listen to you. As if you're going to talk. Uncivil, you can't even open your mouth. So keep quiet, you cannot open your mouth. You're going to tell him. At that point of time, you understand how things work, how things begin to become more clear. Because now when the Shafa'at comes, and when you see this concept, then we realize, yes, what Shafi does is, this Hussain will go to him, and he says, these 999 lines are those who used to cry, oh my mother Fatima and Ayyame Fatimiya. I have izzat and abru in your eyes, O Lord. By the sake of my izzat, by the sake of my abru, by the sake of my rank that is there in your eyes, I plead you do not approach them as adl. Approach them as adl, as rahim. Then those 999 go into heaven. This is what the Shafi does. This is what Shafa'at does. He doesn't come and say, just forgive them. And God says, yeah, because you said I forgive them. It doesn't work. If he appears himself as Witr, as the Adl, nobody can change him. You know what Quran says about the Holy Prophet? If this Prophet of mine puts and ascribes things to me that I have not said, I will hold him by his hand, ثُمَّ قَطَعْنَا مِنْهُ الْوَتِينَ I will cut off his jugular. I will not even hesitate to kill my Quran. Don't come and tell me what Sheikh are you doing. This is Quran I'm saying. لو تقبل علينا بعض الأقاويل لأخذنا منه باليمين لأخذنا منه باليمين ثم قطعنا منه الوتين. If he tries to ascribe things falsely to me, I will not leave even Muhammad. He may be the best of my servants. So over here, over there, when he says لن تجد لسنة الله تبديلا, if I am supposed to manifest as adl, there's no escape. But then Hussein comes and says, for my sake, don't just be an adil, be rahim. When two comes, he becomes shafi, then there is success. But, let us not be under this misunderstanding and misconception. That's because we have the Ahlulbayt. On the day of judgment, every sin, and for every person it will be accepted. Quran says, listen, everybody has been given, people have been given the authority, but there are certain بِشَرْطِهَا وَشُرُوطِهَا. Quran categorically says, وَلَا تَنْفَعُ الشَّفَاعَتُهُمْ. There will be certain individuals, لا تنفعهم شفاعة الشافعين. There will be certain individuals who would want to do shafa'at. But eventually on the day of judgment, the power is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There will be certain individuals for whom the shafa'at will not be accepted. One, that means Allah says, on the day of judgment, the shafa'at of certain individuals, for certain individuals will not be accepted. There are two meanings to this. Means that there will be certain individuals who will not benefit from shafa'at. And this is not surprising. Pick up the Quran. One day the Holy Prophet, the munafiqeen would die. Sometimes munafiqeen, we were talking in Jummah khutbah, munafiqeen come in the guise of Islam. Kuffar, but guise of Islam. Wolf in sheep's clothing. Now these munafiqeen had relations who were close to the Holy Prophet. So when they would die, these relatives would come to the Prophet and say, please pray for them. God says, Muhammad, you will not do that. استغفر لهم أو لا تستغفر لهم إن تستغفر لهم 70 مرة لن يغفر الله لهم. You, the best of my creation, you on whose hands I have sent my religion up to the day of judgment. But استغفر لهم, you may seek forgiveness for them, or you don't seek forgiveness for them. أو لا تستغفر. But even if you choose to seek forgiveness for such individuals, وَإِن تَسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ 70 مرة, 70 times, Again, 70 is metaphorical. Stating if you even speak and request me and seek forgiveness for a long time, Allah will never forgive. Prophet is asking forgiveness. God says, I'm not going to forgive. لا تنفع شفاعة الشافعين. There will be certain individuals for whom shafa'at will not be accepted, one, and there will be certain sins for which shafa'at will not be accepted. But that's not our point. That we will continue. There is no way I can complete the entire topic in these 2 months. We will carry forward on Thursdays. But we know certain things. One thing is that there's a certain group who has been given the authority. See, we also need to discuss the objections of the Wahhabis against shafa'at. And certain objections within our community. Within our community means the Islamic community. Within the Shiite community, certain questions come up. Not tonight. Subsequent Thursdays we will discuss. Some things we will keep when we are discussing about the Wahhabis on Friday. The Friday khutbahs. All the allegations that the Wahhabis do against the Shiites. We will deal with them individually and we will answer them. And we will see how wrong they are. So that at least we know where we stand. But one thing is certain, that on the Day of Judgment, one group has been given the authority. Proof from the Quran, not time, not Thursdays, is the Holy Prophet and his family. When it comes to the family, Fatima, tomorrow night. Not tonight, tomorrow night. Her first Shafa'at. But how the Holy Prophet does one riwayat. One riwayat. And this riwayat is in the... I will just read out this riwayat to you. Again, it's in Arabic, so that you understand what it is about. This is with respect to this ayah of the Quran. وَعَسَىٰ أَن يَبْعَثَكَ رَبُّكَ مَقَامًا مَحْمُودًا. In the Quran, Allah says, there could be a possibility that Allah will give you a maqam mahmud. It's an ajib ayat. Huh? And under this ayat, there are numerous riwayat that talk about the azamat of the Holy Prophet on the Day of Judgment. وَعَسَىٰ أَن يَبْعَثَكَ رَبُّكَ مَقَامًا مَحْمُودًا. This possibility, perhaps is just a metaphorical statement to highlight some important fact that is definitely going to take place. Under this is a riwayat of a Rawi Sumat ibn Imran. Over here the riwayat says, and again this riwayat paints a picture of what is going to happen in terms of the Shafa'at of the Holy Prophet. And look at the words, and I will highlight a certain word. It keeps coming again and again and again. And then when it comes to Masala, I will show you how that word really changes the whole thing. But over here the discussion is talk is between two individuals, the Holy Prophet and his daughter Fatima. Listen to this tradition. Again, this is narrated, it's a very beautiful the narration. The narration comes from Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. This is narrated by the Holy Prophet, by Imam Ali. The talk is between Fatima and the Holy Prophet. Narrated by Ali ibn Abi Talib. It reaches us through the sixth Imam, Ja'far ibn Muhammad. The lineage goes like this. Stated by Ali. From Ali it was narrated by Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari. From Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari it was narrated by the fourth and fifth Imam. Basically it's the same thing. And then the sixth Imam narrates. But the sanad goes like this. قال جعفر بن محمد عن أبيه عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري عن علي بن أبي طالب قال. Ali says, now listen. قالت فاطمة لرسول الله. Now Imam Ali is discussing and narrating a communication that takes place between her father and herself. Ayyame Fatimiya, Fatima. قالت فاطمة لرسول الله يا أبتا. She's telling the father, يا أبتا, my father, أين ألقاك يوم الموقف الأعظم ويوم الأهوال ويوم الفزع الأكبر. Now these are three different names for Qiyamah. فزع الأكبر, a place of extreme fright. يوم الأهوال, يوم الأحوال, a place, a time, a day of khawf. يوم الموقف الأعظم, a place of great standardization and standing before the Lord. Different names, leave that. Don't get confused. Ya Abata, oh my Lord, where do I find you? Now this, they know it, this is for us. Because it has come to us, it is meant for us. There are so many discussions that go back in the houses that don't reach us. It's not supposed to reach us. Certain things need to come, this needs to come. So he says, Ya Abata, Aina alqaka yawm al-qiyamah, in short, where do I find you on the Day of Judgment? Now she keeps asking the sentence, and the Holy Prophet keeps answering, and in the answer you find at so many places he's going to stand for you and me. to prevent us from going into hell. He says, Aina alqaka? So first he says, قال يا فاطمة عند باب الجنة ومعي لواء الحمد وأنا الشفيع لأمتي إلى ربي. It's in the first place that you might see me, one of the places at the door of paradise. At the door of paradise you will see me. I am there, I will be there to do the Shafa'at of my ummah. The word, Shafa'at of my ummah. He's not specified where, whom. Certain traditions narrate, and I'm specifying the specific. His first question when she asked, he said, you will find me at the door of paradise, Bab al-Jannah. Riwayat says that when the Holy Prophet comes in the paradise, on the day of judgment, he will be said, Ya Muhammad, I give you the authority to do whatever you want. Specifically Bab al-Jannah. So the Riwayat says the Holy Prophet walks towards the paradise and knocks at the door. So the question comes from inside. Ridwan is the supervisor of paradise. He says, Man bil bab, who is it at the door? So he says, Muhammad, doors open. Come inside, come with me. The Prophet doesn't go. The Riwayat says he goes into sajda. He goes into sajda, doesn't get up. Protracted sajda. Till God says, Ya Muhammad, stand up. Tell me what you want. So the Riwayat says, Prophet gets up. Without asking, he goes back again into sajda. Again around sajda, second time Allah says, Muhammad, stand up. Now ask what you want. Ask what you want, I will give you what you want. Do shafa'at for whoever you want, I will accept your shafa'at. At that time, Riwayat says, he goes, hand picks each and every one. Fulan, come with me. Fulan, come with me. Fulan, come with me. He hand picks them, takes them into paradise. Shafa'at of the ummah. He says, you will find me at the Babul Jannah. Ana shafi'un li ummati ila Rabbi. I will do shafa'at of my ummah towards Rabbi. Now Fatima asks second, قالت يا أبتا فإن لم ألقاك هناك. If I don't find you there, just explaining to us the various places. Obviously, how can she not find Muhammad over there? He is going to be the king over there, handling all the affairs. But just for us to understand, what will happen? فَإِن لَمْ أَلْقَاكَ هُنَاك. So he says, أَلْقِينِي عَلَى الْحَوْضِ وَأَنَا أَسْقِي أُمَّتِي. Then you will find me near the hawd. I will be giving water. You know, on the day of judgment, again Riwayat says, I need to reach the Masad. The Riwayat says, it will be so hot. And again, we don't want to go into the explanation. It's going to be extremely hot, because then we start going on into a tangent. At that point of time, people, it's as if, tradition Riwayat says, says if the water of the 7 oceans were to be given to the person, his thirst would not die down. That was the state. At that time the Prophet says, I will be there at the hawd. I will be giving water to my ummah. Again the word ummah. And then she asked, Ya Abba, فقالت, Ya Abata, إن لم ألقاك هناك. What happens if I don't find you there? So he says, ألقيني على الصراط وأنا قائم أقول لربي سلم أمتي. If you don't find me near the hawd, then you will find me near the sirat, and I will keep praying to God, Salim ya Rabbi ummati. Take care of my ummah. Help them to cross the sirat. Shafi. He's a Shafi. They are going to stand at the sirat, at the door of the paradise, at the hawd, at the sirat. Then she asks, فَإِن لَمْ أَلْقَاكَ هُنَاك. What happens if I don't find you there? He's saying, أَنَا عِنْدَ الْمِيزَانِ. I will be the place where your a'mal are being weighed. Good deeds, bad deeds. فَمَنْ ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ وَمَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ. You know, Quran says, وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٌ وَأَمَّا مَنْ ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَهُوَ فِي عَيْشَةٍ رَاضِيَةٍ. If the deeds of good deeds are weak, are light, the bad deeds are more, فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٌ, into the hell. وَإِذَا ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ, if good deeds are heavy, then he is into bliss of paradise. Imam, the Prophet says, I will be there. I will be there at the Mizan. Ana in the Mizan. I will be there when your amal are being measured. Aqulu Rabbi Salim Ummati. I will tell the Prophet, I will tell Allah, Allah, let them go. Let them. Shafa'at. Say, don't deal with them with adalat. Deal with them الْوِتْرُ. Then she goes on, قالت فَإِنْ لَمْ أَلْقَاكَ هُنَاكَ. What happens if I still don't find you there? قال ألقيني على شفير جهنم أمنع شررها واللهيبها عن أمتي. It's like, if you don't even find me there, you will find me at the door of hell. And I will be there to make sure that the fires and the flamings and the flames and the scorching of the fires don't reach my ummah. Amna'u, the words are, Amna'u, I will protect who? My ummah. میں میری امت کو بچاؤں گا جہنم کی آگ سے. امنعو, اس کی شر سے, اس کی جلن سے, اس کی آگ سے میں میری امت کو بچاؤں گا. سوال یہ پوچھتا ہوں میں آپ سب سے, سوال یہ کرنا چاہتا ہوں, ہر بار جب فاطمہ پوچھتی ہے, اور روایت کے آخری جملے یہ سننے کے بعد فاطمہ اتنا خوش ہوئی کہ فاطمہ کے چہرے پر مسکان آ گئی. آپ سن چکے, ہر بار فاطمہ پوچھتی ہے آپ کہاں پائے جاؤ گے, میں آپ کو کہاں ملوں گی, میں آپ کہاں مجھے پائے جاؤ گے. اور ہر بار امام رسول خدا کہتے فلاں جگہ پر امت کی مدد کے لیے, فلاں جگہ پر امت کی مدد کے لیے, فلاں جگہ پر امت کی مدد کے لیے. مگر جب یہ رسول اپنی امت کا اتنا خیر خواہ دنیا سے گیا تو یہ امت نے کیا باکنش دکھایا, یہ امت نے کیا کر دکھایا فاطمہ کے ساتھ. فاطمہ کی روایت کے جملے, فاستبشرت فاطمہ, فاطمہ خوش ہوئی کہ بابا کی امت کو بچانے کے لیے میرا بابا مختلف مواقف پر پایا جائے گا. مگر اس امت نے اس دختر رسول کے ساتھ کیا کیا, بتاؤ کیا کیا. جب باپ مر گیا, باپ چلا گیا, باپ دنیا سے انتقال کر گیا, تو یہ امت فاطمہ کو رونے کا موقع نہ دی, رونے کے لیے ممانعت ایجاد کر. ارے لوگ آتے تھے علی کے پاس, اب علی اب برداشت نہیں ہوتا, یہ فاطمہ کے رونے کی آواز ہمارے لیے اذیت ہے. اب فاطمہ سے کہو یا دن کو روئے یا رات کو روئے. یہ ہے, یہ امت نے کیا ہے فاطمہ کے ساتھ دھوکا. اور اسی وجہ سے تو ہے نا کہ فاطمہ, پھر علی نے سلمان سے کہا جاؤ مدینے کے باہر جاؤ اور بیت الاحزان بناؤ. یہ بیت الاحزان کس طرح بنا آپ کو پتا ہے؟ جب ممانعت آئی, لوگ کہنے لگے اب مدینے میں فاطمہ دن بھر نہیں رو سکتی, یا دن کو روئے یا رات کو روئے. تو مدینے کے باہر ایک کھجور کا درخت تھا, کھجور کے درخت کے نیچے بیٹھ کر ایک طرف حسن ایک طرف حسین, یہ سیدہ رویا کرتی تھی, گریہ کیا کرتی تھی. ایک مرتبہ جب پہنچی, ارے وہ ایک درخت کا سایہ بھی نہ رہا, کیونکہ ظالموں نے اس درخت کو کاٹ دیا. جب لوٹی تو چہرہ اتنا سرخ ہو چکا. ایک مرتبہ علی پریشان, ارے فاطمہ یہ کیا حالت. اس وقت فاطمہ نے کہا وہ درخت کے نیچے بیٹھ کر بابا پر گریہ جو کیا کرتی تھی وہ درخت کو بھی کاٹا جا چکا. پھر بنی بیت الاحزان. مگر شہادت کا جو تفصیل کے جو ہے وہ اشارہ کر آئے گی. مگر آج ایک پیغام جو اس واقعے سے ملتا ہے, مسائل میں سے جو ہے وہ بیان کرنا. ایک آپ کو تو پتا ہے, نماز صبح کے قریب شہزادی کی شہادت واقع ہو جاتی ہے. مگر واقعہ تو یہی ہے نا کہ نماز صبح کے بعد جو ہے وہ بی بی کی شہادت واقع ہوتی ہے. فقہ کا مسئلہ یہ ہے کہ جتنا ہو سکے جلدی میت کو دفنا دیا جائے. مگر اس استحباب کے اوپر فائق آتا ہے انسان کی وصیت, اور عجیب وصیت شہزادی کونین کر بیٹھی. جانے سے پہلے علی کا ہاتھ تھامتی ہے, یبنام اے میرے چچا کے بیٹے میری وصیت پر عمل کرنا. اب اس وقت علی کی کیا کیفیت اب میں نہیں بیان کر سکتا, ان کی کیا کیفیت. یہ علی کی بات کر رہا ہوں میں, فاتح خیبر و حنین. مگر اس کو رہنے دیجیے. فاطمہ کا ہاتھ پکڑتے کہتے بولو دختر رسول کیا وصیت ہے. کہتے میرے جنازے کو رات کی تاریکی میں گھر سے باہر لے جانا. ارے سیدت نساء عالمین 7 افراد ہو اور قبر کا نشانہ کسی کو نہ بتانا. ارے اسی لیے تو ہم کہتے ہیں اللہم عجل فرجا، اے امام زمانہ جلد ظہور کرے. ارے اماں فاطمہ آپ کی قبر تو دکھا دیجئے، ایک شمع جلا دے. ارے یہ سیدت نساء العالمین ایک ابہام کے گھیرے میں ہے، کہاں ہے دفن؟ جنت البقیع، محراب اور منبر کے درمیان، کہ خود کے گھر میں اے امام آئیے دکھائیے آپ کی جدہ کی قبر. ایک مرتبہ صرف 7 لوگ، کسی اور کو نہیں، خبر کا نام و نشان نہ ہو. آدھی رات کو جنازہ نکلے. اب سننا تو بہت آسان ہے عزیزاروں، مگر آپ سوچئے رات کو نکلنا ہے جنازہ، شہادت ہو گئی سویرے، اب جنازہ سویرے سے گھر میں پڑا ہے، یعنی سویرے کا پورا دن، مغرب کے بعد آدھی رات کو لے جانا ہے. ارے نہیں سمجھے کلیجہ پھٹ جائے گا. ارے جب جنازہ گھر میں ہوتا ہے نا تو زیادہ گریہ ہوتا، زیادہ پریشانی ہوتی ہے. ارے ننھے حسن حسین، ام کلثوم زینب، ارے بار بار ماں کے جنازے کو دیکھ کر ارے بار بار گریہ، دن بھر گریہ کرتے رہے، دن بھر گریہ کرتے رہے. ایک مرتبہ مغرب کا وقت آیا، بچوں نے کہا اماں کو لے جانا ہے. علی نے کہا نہیں اب نہیں. عصر کا عشاء کا وقت آیا، لے جانا ہے. نہیں، کیونکہ ابھی ہو سکتا ہے لوگ جاگ رہے ہو. آدھی رات کا وقت ہوا، ایک عجیب قافلہ یہ گھر سے نکلا. ارے یہ وہی گھر تھا 2 سال پہلے اسی سے توحید کو بچانے کے لیے نصارہ نجران کے ساتھ مباہلہ کے لیے قافلہ نکلا تھا. مگر کجا وہ قافلہ اور کجا یہ قافلہ. آگے حسن ہے اور ساتھ میں جنازہ نکلا. بچوں نے جو ہے خدا حافظی کے لیے حسن حسین ساتھ چلے، 7 اصحاب آئے. اب جیسے جا رہے ہیں گھر سے باہر، ایک مرتبہ ننھی زینب چھوٹی ہے نا بھی، دوڑتی ہوئی آئی، بابا کا دامن پکڑ لیا. بابا مجھے بھی آنا ہے. اماں فاطمہ کی دفن میں علی نے سر پر ہاتھ پھیرا. بچہ، ہمارے گھر کی عورتیں، ہمارے گھر کی خواتین نامحرموں کے سامنے نہیں آتی. تم رک جاؤ، تم رک جاؤ. بابا مجھے اماں کی قبر جانا ہے، ہم کل رات کو چلیں گے. اب نہیں. ایک مرتبہ زینب کو چھوڑا، ام کلثوم کو چھوڑا، یہ اصحاب 7 اصحاب حسن حسین اور علی جنازے کو لے کر نکلے. دفن ہو چکی سیدہ. اب جب پلٹے تقریباً جو ہے کافی عرصہ آدھی رات کا گزر چکا. زینب آئی، جیسے علی آئے زینب پھر سے دوڑتی آئی، کہنے لگی بابا میرے اماں کو کہاں چھوڑا ہے، مجھے ملنا ہے. علی نے کہا نہیں کہا تم سے، رات کو جائیں گے. اب آپ سوچئے زینب کی کیفیت. اب قریب اذان صبح علی برگشت کرتے ہیں. اب زینب کو پتا ہے رات کو جانا ہے فاطمہ کی قبر پر. اس دل پر ہاتھ رکھ کے پوچھئے اپنے آپ سے کس طرح یہ سارا دن زینب کا گزرا ہوگا. ارے بار بار گھڑی پر نگاہ، ارے گھڑی تو نہیں تھی، وقت پر نگاہ. ارے کب مغرب آ جائے. مغرب آئی، بابا چلیں گے. کہا نہیں اب عشاء کا وقت ہے، لوگ نماز کے لیے نکلیں گے. رک جاؤ، عشاء کا وقت آیا، بابا چلیں گے. ارے بیٹی ہے نا، ماں کی قبر پر فاتحہ پڑھنا ہے. بابا نے کہا نہیں اب بھی نہیں، رک جاؤ. آدھی رات سب مدینے والے سو جائے تب ہم چلیں گے. آدھی رات نکلی، آدھی رات چلی، یہ قافلہ نکلا. آگے حسن ہے، پیچھے حسین ہے، بیچ میں ننھی زینب ہے، ساتھ میں علی ہے. ارے عجیب قافلہ نکلا. چلتے گئے اس جگہ پر جہاں سیدہ کو دفن کیا گیا. جیسے دور سے حسنین نے دیکھا مقام پہنچ چکا. ایک مرتبہ ماں کا پیار وہ لپک گیا, ابھر گیا, دوڑتے ہوئے سیدہ کی قبر پر گرتے ہیں. اما فاطمہ, حسن آ چکے, حسین آ چکے. اب جیسے, ابھی سنیے گا, جیسے زینب نے دیکھا حسن حسین دوڑے, ایک مرتبہ زینب بھی چاہا, زینب نے چاہا میں بھی دوڑوں. اب جانا چاہا کہ کیا دیکھا, علی نے ہاتھ کو پکڑ لیا, علی نے ہاتھ کو پکڑ لیا. اب زینب سے تو کچھ نہیں کہا, مگر حسن سے کہا بیٹا حسن, اس قبر پر جو چراغ ہے اس کو خاموش کر دو. اب زینب کو سمجھ میں نہ آیا, بابا یہ کیا کہہ رہے ہیں. کہتے بیٹی آدھی رات کا وقت ہے, سب سو چکے ہیں. بس صحیح بات ہے, مگر وہ علی کا دل گوارا نہ کیا کہ یہاں سے کوئی مسافر گزر جائے اور چراغ کی روشنی میں تمہارے چہرے پر نظر پڑ جائے. ارے میں ہاتھ جوڑ کر کہوں گا اے مولا, آدھی رات کا وقت ہے, مدینہ ہے, ارے اصحاب ہے اس مدینے میں, مگر زینب کا چہرہ فاش ہوتا نہ دیکھ سکے. ارے ذرا 61 ہجری میں کوفہ آئیے, ارے دن کا ماحول ہے, ارے مرغے عادا ہے, آپ ہی کی بیٹی زینب ہے, ارے نمک نہ ہے نہ چادر ہے. ارے اسی لیے کوفہ کے بازار میں ارے زینب کربت نجف کا رخ کرتی ہے. اے میرا بابا مرتضی, مدینے میں میرا حجاب رکھنے والے, ذرا کوفہ آئیے, زینب کی مدد کی. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب اليوم.